Pope Francis started out a visit to Myanmar Monday by immediately weighing in on the country's crackdown on Rohingya Muslims. The Catholic leader met the general in charge of military operations upon his arrival. The Vatican says during the meeting, Pope Francis spoke of the great responsibilities authorities have in Myanmar's transition to democracy. This comes as security forces have been attacking Rohingya Muslims. The UN calls the military campaign an ethnic cleansing. Some 620,000 Muslim refugees have already fled across the border to Bangladesh. They have shared stories of entire villages being burned to the ground while villagers are being raped and murdered. Candida Moss is a Cadbury professor of theology at the University of Birmingham in England. She joins us now. Candida, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
This is not the first time the Pope has spoken about this crisis, but what is his message to Myanmar officials?
Well, he's meeting with a variety of officials. So he's meeting with the state councillor, Aung San Suu Kyi, and he's also met with the leaders of the military, those most directly responsible for the ethnic cleansing in Myanmar. So he wants to walk a delicate line here. He doesn't have a lot to offer here in Myanmar, where there are very few Catholics, and his moral authority doesn't have a lot of weight. At the same time, he has to speak out, because this has been one of the messages of his papacy, that you have to care for refugees.
And there have been some questions about what he is allowed to say and not to say. I mean, the Rohingya Muslims aren't even officially recognized in the country. Is that correct?
That's correct. The Burmese government does not recognize the Rohingya as an ethnic group, and they recognize some 135 of them. So they don't even recognize that this is a group that could be cleansed. They instead see them as illegal immigrants in the country. That's something no one else would agree with.
So how does the Vatican prepare for the delicate diplomatic relations in these types of visits?
Well, they don't have a carrot and they don't have a stick. So they have to be careful, because he doesn't want to endanger Catholics in the region, and because a lot of Catholics in Myanmar have said that they want Francis to support the civilian government that's in place, because if it was to go, then they would regress back to the kind of military government that was so problematic for 50 years or so.
So he's walking a delicate line. And how likely do you think Myanmar officials are to receive his message, to really hear what he's trying to say?
Well, it really depends on who he speaks to. If he speaks to the military government about the crisis, that would send a strong message. And if he did that, then he can also have a much sort of more conciliatory, power-sharing role when he meets with the state councillor. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays it.
And of course, as you pointed out earlier, Christians are a tiny minority in the country. So as you pointed out, his status as a religious figure is not very large. But so then is he there more as a political figure?
That's a really interesting question, because he's not a religious leader there. But it's not the case that Myanmar is sort of very open to external political intervention. So, for example, she's a state councillor because her husband and children are British citizens, and that prohibited her from just becoming president when she came to power. So they don't really love external political pressure either. So this is a very delicate balance. He's going to speak as a moral authority, but he doesn't have any kind of political stick either.
Very, very interesting. Now, he is expected to travel to Bangladesh on Thursday. Is that correct? Where he is expected to meet with a small group of refugees. Do we know what his message to them will be?
Well, I imagine when he goes to meet with the refugees, his message will be one of support, of calling for the international community to care for these people. And mainly by going and meeting with them, he will be drawing attention to the Rohingya crisis. I think what everyone wants to know is, will he speak about this in Myanmar, where the crisis is most pressing?
Absolutely. Candida Moss, thank you so much for that.
Thank you.